Namaste. I am Julie. I teach yoga and meditation, and I would like to donate a class for anyone that wishes to access a short yoga practice and a short meditation. Happy to use this class and work with Banyan Workspace. I find that sometimes we don't always have the time to give ourselves just that little bit of time out. So what I'd like to introduce this morning is a tiny sort of space where you can add a bit of meditation and do a little bit of yoga stretches at the same time. And some of the yoga stretches we do are quite simple, so even if yoga is new for you, it's totally accessible. Same with the meditation. It's often a challenge to sit there with discipline to really challenge the mind and the stillness. But again, I would like to guide you through breath work meditation where we focus primarily on the breath. So to start with, ideally a cushion or a rolled up blanket or towel to sit up on. Personally, I find it a little bit more comfortable. Technically, it's meant to be encouraging to be able to sit a little bit longer because it elevates the hips a little bit, it helps to keep the spine upright, and it helps to get the knees further lower than the hips. Sit in any sort of shape as a starter. We're going to be here about 5 minutes. So if you feel that that's going to be a challenge for you and crossing legs, sitting on the floor is just too much, then a chair is an option as well. Okay, so once you get to a comfortable seated position, once you're ready, I'd like you to close the eyes. And I find with the arms, my body sort of tells me where my arms want to be placed. You can have palms up, palms down. You can come into chin mudra, which is finger to thumb to connect. You can even have your hands resting in the lap. So to begin with, just take an effortless breath in and an exhalation through the mouth, letting out all the breath. And let's keep it simple. Just for the few seconds here, you're just going to take a few deep cleansing breaths. Knowing that your exhalation is that prana that accelerates and nurtures the nervous system. So when you take a deep breath, where you feel that instant calmness is because that long exhalation is what starts to stimulate what we call the parasympathetic nervous system that helps to calm the systems down. So for maybe a moment or two, focus on your exhalation. Feeling like you're releasing the breath out in a nice, controlled, comfortable manner that is allowing you to feel that sense of calmness. Gradually, when we sit in a slightly longer time, our mind naturally starts to wander, and that's totally normal. And you should totally accept that that's what will happen. The nature of the mind does not stay still. And you can ask the most avid meditators that do it every single day and probably have done for years and years, and they will still tell you their mind can wander away. Now when that happens, just notice that that is happening, and that's where the magic starts to happen. When you have noticed the mind wanders, that maybe you can allow the mind to soften and come back to your breath. And the fact that you've noticed means you're in the present moment and you're in that frame of mindfulness. to welcome that, if anything, rather than use it as a time to judge and get frustrated. So keeping with that concentration or attention to your breath as much as you can, even if the mind takes you away again a second time, a third time, 100 times. It is totally normal. And like anything, it's a practice. So each and every time you need to keep coming back to that reminder of your breath in and the breath out. Creating that lengthy spine, relaxed shoulders. Maybe for a moment or two noticing where you feel the breath the most. It is in the belly. Is it right up into the chest? Do you feel it as an upward and a downward movement? Do you feel it as a broadening of the body? Does the breath make you feel more grounded, connected? And continue to stay with this simplicity of the breath becoming the major awareness, like it's the most important thing to do right now. More cycles of breath. Maybe starting to notice the amount of time you were able to stay with that presence, that connection. And when you're ready to, you slowly start to flicker. Open the eyes. Now we're going to do a little bit of stretching. I would like you to switch over the legs. It might feel different, but sometimes it can feel a little less intense, just to change the folding of the legs. We're going to come into a lateral stretch. So what I'm going to try and take you through is some stretches where we target every body part. Okay. And what we're going to do here is take our right hand out to the side, loose elbow, so nothing rigid. Left arm reaches up and you're going to come into a side stretch. Now you come onto the palm of the hand, but keep that bend in the right elbow. And just feel that breath reach into the left side of the body, aiming to keep your left butt cheek on the mat. Take a few deep breaths in this position. Looking down if it's more comfortable for the neck. Reaching up, stretching both arms up. Really power and feel that length through both sides of the body this time. Take it over to the left. Getting soft left elbow, reach over and find that space in the right side. Reposition the head wherever it feels comfortable to rest. And again, breath in. And let's do do that a couple more times a little bit faster. So take it over to the right, stretch it over, big breath. Take it back up, or maybe your breath in, reaching up through the fingertips. Exhale into the left. Good. And then reach back up again. And exhale, hands down. We're going to come into a twist. Great first thing in the morning if you're doing this practice to get things moving. Left hand, right thigh, right hand behind you. Now use that right hand to prop you upright rather than lean back. And as you pull your navel back, feel the turn start to come from the belly and the rib cage. So you don't want to turn your hips. And you can use a few breaths to get yourself into any depth of twist. Remind yourself this is starting from the base, working up to the crown of the head. So technically the head is the last place to turn. And you don't even have to turn the head. Now stimulating the lower digestive system with this Vayu breath that targets elimination. So things do shift quite often when you constantly sort of do and work with twists in yoga. So hold it for a couple of breaths, really making sure you're breathing strong rather than suffocating the breath. Often that's an indication you may have gone a little bit too far. Okay, we're going to breathe in, we're going to realign the spine, take those arms back up. And then we're going to take it to the left. Same thing, that left hand behind your back is propping you up. Your right hand is maybe pushing the thighs slightly down. The navel's retracting back, and then you're feeling that twist come predominantly into sort of middle section. So keeping pelvis neutral. Often slowing the breath down, so you're using your inhalation as extension and your exhalation as that turning and connecting with those muscles. Maybe staying there a few breaths longer if you choose to, otherwise you're going to inhale and take both arms up, stretch, 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 and then release the hands down. Okay, let's bring both feet and legs forward. We're going to come into butterfly, which is a hip opener, often used to stretch through the inner legs and sort of upper glute muscles too. So feet ideally a little bit further away from your hips. I like to do this propped up still as well. I think that helps to give a little bit of space in lower back. And you're just going to take hold of your shins or your feet. Your spine will be rounded, and you're just aiming to keep the feet together. Allow that gentle release of knees. If you need to take your feet wider, further forward to release the knees closer to the ground, there's an option there too. Okay. If you want to feel the stronger feet come closer. And you're just going to do a little gentle fold in with the head. Now if you're doing this first thing in the morning, it can be quite tight, so just gently ease yourself into that stretch. You want to feel a strong stretch, but take it to your edge that's allowing you to stay there. And encouraging that focus on your breath once again. Feeling maybe a nice, beautiful stretch through your back. Letting the head dangle. Staying here for a couple more breaths. Invite that feeling of descending gravity helping you down there. And then slowly making your way all the way back up. From here, just shift your cushion or prop or towel just off to the side. We're going to come on to hands and knees. And we're going to do some cat and cow. So cow stretch is when we lift the chest, we drop the belly, and we breathe in. And on the exhalation, we round, we scoop, we pull the back body up towards the ceiling, drop in the head. And we do that a few times. Breath in, breath out, breath in, and breath out. And then from here we're going to make our way into downward dog. So if you've never done downward dog, just tuck in toes. You're trying to find that sort of pyramid shape with your body where you're allowing your hips to draw up and back. Finding space for your spine. Maybe walking out the legs a few times. Knowing that heels may not touch the mats, but feel that stretch you're creating through the back body. The whole back body. Take as long as you need here. And then you're going to come forward to a plank. Now for those of you who are strong, you might be able to hold the plank with knees off the ground, otherwise you drop the knees to the floor. Either way, supported or full plank, hold it here. See if you can allow yourself to hold it for 5 breaths. If that's not available, knees to ground will help you to stay with that stretch. Hold it here, last breath maybe, and then you lower down onto the belly. Coming into a little bit of back strength work, you're going to come into cobra. So hands under shoulders, keep the back of the neck long, engage belly, push thighs down and come up any amount. Really finding length to the body rather than a lift necessarily. Elbows squeeze to ribs. Shoulder blades roll down the back, broaden the chest. One more breath if you can. Keep that tummy strong, and then lower to the floor. As you push up, you tuck your toes, you push back to your knees. Let's come into child's pose. Let's stretch back. Ideally bottom to heels, head to floor. Rather than aim to get the head to the floor, it's the bottom to the heels first if you can. Relaxed elbows, relaxed arms, relaxed shoulders. Stay here as long as you need. Beautiful stretch in the glutes. You're going to slowly make your way up. Obviously you can stay there longer if you wanted to. You're going to come to a tabletop position. We're going to come into a shoulder stretch. Left hand comes forward. Right arm scoops under. And you rest your right ear to the ground. Now if you need to prop your head up onto something, you can use that cushion again. And there's a couple of options here with the left hand. You can stay on the mat. And your hips are really trying to stay even. And that, again, that sort of rotation is coming more through the upper body. That left hand can also come up towards the ceiling or loop behind your back for a half bind. Resting, if you can, on the right ear. And taking a few nice big nourishing breaths here. Left arm comes back up if that's where you took it. So push it into the floor to help you up. Take that right shoulder back. Pause in the middle. When you're ready, right hand goes forward, left arm scoops, and you rest on your left ear. Again, you can rest that right hand just where it is. You can take it up towards the ceiling, or it can scoop behind your back. Again, you're putting a bit of weight through the back of that left shoulder, so it can feel sometimes fairly strong. You can use the hips to slightly lift the weight back if necessary. Stay in here, a couple more breaths, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, and slowly bring your hand back up, and then slowly bring yourself all the way back. Okay. And again from here, just let's come into another down dog, tucking toes, stretching back. And then slowly back to the knees. Okay, coming to a brief kneeling position. We're going to just add another twist that gets a little bit into hips as well. So we're going to come onto our side. So my right thigh is parallel to the top edge of the mat. And you're going to bring the legs almost a 90 degrees. So your left leg is back behind you. And then you're going to turn to face the front of your mat. So it's quite a strong twist, great for lower back, great for opening up through the side body. And from here you can either just have arms straight and stay upright, or you're going to come down onto your forearms. Now this gets a lot stronger through the middle part of the body. And I invite you to stay here as long as you need to. You can even let the head just dangle. Really finding space. Now if you find that this isn't strong enough, the other version is to take it a little bit more to the right corner of your mat. And even the back leg can extend a little bit further back and even straighten off. So we call this deer pose in yin yoga. Obviously I'm demonstrating these for 5 or 6 breaths, but you can take them longer. And then we're going to come back to the middle, come back upright, and then swing the legs to the opposite side. Sometimes it gets a little bit confusing. Left thigh parallel to the mat, my right leg is now that sort of 90-degree angle, and then turning to face the front. Now quite often we have a tighter side, it's very normal to feel that, and the great thing about practicing yoga is you become so aware of your body. So your option is to stay upright, to come down onto your elbows, or even take it a little bit stronger to the left corner of your mat, and maybe extending the right leg this time a little bit further back. So know your limitations. Very important that in some of these longer holding stretches that we go to our edge, but it's got to be accessible. One or two more breaths if you can, staying longer. And then slowly bring yourself upright. And let's spin both legs back to the front. Okay, we're going to come down onto our back. We're going to do one more stretch before coming into Shavasana. So reclining butterfly, one of my personal favorites. Now a little suggestion here, if you did choose to, you can use your rolled up blanket or towel to place underneath your shoulder blades. So your head can drop down, but your chest is elevated. So it's pretty much on the back of the shoulder blades. And bring those legs back into butterfly. So your feet are together. They can be as far away or as close as you want to. Your arms come out into what we call cactus arms, goalpost arms. And you rest, if you can, back of shoulders on the mat. So sometimes it's playing around with that position of your towel that works. And this is a beautiful release and stretch through the lungs. So feel this as an opening for your breath. And once again, I invite you to stay here for as long as you can. And that can be anything up to 4 or 5 minutes. Taking a couple more breaths. Now I'm talking you through this practice that is a little bit quick, but if you were able to spend longer in this shape, please do so. It's a great stretch and release through the entire body. And after this shape, you come into a Shavasana, which is just extending legs and arms alongside the body. And this is another shape where you can be here for even longer. So even though I may suggest you stay here for 5 minutes, 10 minutes is even more amazing. So when we come into Shavasana, if you stay there, I'll talk you through a relaxation. So Shavasana is that finding that place between consciousness and subconsciousness, where it helps the body to relax even more. So meditation, you have to keep the mind a little bit more in tune, whereas Shavasana, I see it more as a physical relaxation, where you're really trying to invite every part of your body to totally relax. So your breath doesn't need to be controlling. You can just find just space. This has to be as effortless as possible without falling asleep. So it's that floaty feeling between just before you would go into a deep consciousness sleep. So just to finish off, I'm going to just play one of my singing bowls. This one is linked to the heart chakra. It's a beautiful sound. It is a vibration that you might not often hear too much, but it's a subtle vibration that works through the body, focusing on a pitch that resonates more with the heart. So if it's a feeling that you need this self-care right now, this little bit of time out, then use these sounds to feel it in the heart, knowing that this is a dedication practice for yourself. Whether you stay in Shavasana longer or whether you're ready to shift and move, just moving the body any way that's required, enjoying a shift and a stretch, maybe a deep breath or two. And making your way to a seated nice and slowly, so I suggest knees to chest first, rolling to the right, and then picking yourself up slowly and coming back to that cross-legged position we created at the start of the practice for our meditation. So as you're keeping the eyes closed, come into that cross-legged position. I invite you to bring palms together into Anjali Mudra. Thumbs then connect to the chest. A reminder, purely and simply, of gratitude to yourself, that internal light shines within you, shines within the people that you make contact with in your life. Thumbs rise to the forehead.